When you think about owning something, a piece of land, what comes to mind? Probably a fence, right? Or maybe some landmark. But what if ownership really just came down to a single line on a very old piece of paper? A line that could change everything. And that idea right there, that's the key to this whole story. It's this incredible battle between what you can see with your own eyes and what's written down in a dusty old book. And one man, Daniel, found himself caught right in the middle of it. So what was on the line? 30 acres. We're not talking about a small plot. This was 30 acres of family land, steeped in history, and it was about to vanish. But here's the thing. It wasn't sold. There was no deal, no negotiation, no handshake. It was just reassigned. That's the cold, clinical word they used. A quiet little change on a piece of paper, and a huge piece of his life was gone. So how in the world does this even happen? Well, a developer who owned the neighboring property filed what they called a correction. Basically, they claimed there was a mistake in some updated survey documents, and their fix just so happened to move the property line, swallowing up Daniel's 30 acres. And this is where you see two totally different worlds collide. On one side, you've got Daniel's reality, memories, physical fences that have been there forever, what everyone in the community understood to be the truth. And on the other side, the court's reality, stamped records, fancy legal language, and official-looking surveys. Guess which one usually wins? Yeah. In court, all that history and memory doesn't stand a chance against a piece of paper with the right stamps on it. The developer's version looked more official, so they won. And for most people, that's where the story would end. But not for Daniel. He just couldn't accept it. You know that feeling when something is just fundamentally wrong? He knew that if a record had been changed, there had to be an original record somewhere. So instead of fighting the system head-on, he decided to go back in time. Now, this was not a quick online search. This was a brutal, lonely grind. We're talking about days, then weeks, then months, sitting in dusty county archives, digging through records. And all he kept finding was the same incorrect paperwork that had cost him his land. It looked completely hopeless. But then, buried under all those layers of corrections and updates, he found something. A single document that was about to turn this entire thing upside down. And this, right here, was his stroke of genius. He realized he was getting lost trying to understand the mistake. The real key was to find the truth before the mistake was ever made. What did the record say at the very beginning? And there it was, a document from 1911. This wasn't just another piece of paper. This was the original truth, the foundation that everything else had been incorrectly built on top of. And this 1911 survey was the smoking gun. It was hand-drawn, signed, officially recorded, the whole shebang. It proved, without a doubt, that the boundary was exactly where his family always said it was. A later measurement error created the problem, and the system just kept copying the mistake for years. He had found it. He had the truth. Okay, so what do you do now? You have the proof. Most of us would run straight back to court, right? Wave this paper in the air and demand our land back. But Daniel understood something much deeper. Finding the truth is only half the battle. Using it is the other half. And this is where the story goes from being about justice to being a masterclass in strategy. He understood this idea of strategic leverage. Power doesn't come from arguing, it comes from letting your opponent dig their own hole. So with the most important document of his life in his hands, he did nothing. He waited. He just watched. He watched the bulldozers roll onto his land. He watched them plan foundations and pour thousands, then millions of dollars into the project. With every dollar they spent, they weren't just building a development. They were building Daniel's leverage. They were confidently walking deeper and deeper into a trap they had no idea existed. And only then, months later, when the developer was completely financially locked in, that's when Daniel made his move. And it wasn't with a lawsuit or an angry phone call. It was with absolute surgical precision. He chose the perfect time and place. Not a courtroom, but a boring, bureaucratic regulatory review. One of those meetings where every single piece of paperwork is supposed to be checked and double-checked. He didn't have to argue or raise his voice.
He simply submitted the original 1911 record into the file.
And just like that, everything stopped. The entire multi-million-dollar project was instantly frozen. You can just imagine the panic. And here is why it worked so perfectly. There's a powerful principle in property law that says the first, original, validly recorded document is king. All the corrections and updates made after it don't necessarily erase that original truth. The very system that had failed him was now forced to correct itself.
So, with that 1911 survey now on the table, the outcome was inevitable. The original boundary was correct. Daniel owned the land. But for the developer, their nightmare was just getting started. I mean, just put yourself in their shoes. Your massive project is half built on land you suddenly don't own. Tearing it down would be a financial catastrophe. Their only way out? To negotiate with Daniel. And in the end, get this, Daniel didn't just get his land back. He was paid a huge amount of money to take back his own land. Why? Because by then, their mistake was far more expensive than the land itself. It's just such a powerful lesson. Daniel didn't win by fighting harder. He won by being smarter, by being more patient. He understood that real power sometimes comes from knowing the system so well that you know exactly when to do nothing and exactly when to make your one perfect move. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Ownership isn't just a passive thing. It's not just about what you have. It's about understanding the rules of the game well enough to strategically reclaim what's already yours.